Adiel and his wife, Miranki, had been together for many years without a child. In the village, people mocked them, whispering behind their backs and calling them barren. They tried everything they could, prayers, sacrifices, even remedies from an herbalist, but nothing ever worked. Out of deep shame and sorrow, they made the painful decision to travel far away to seek Akbala, the dark advocate who lived between earth and heaven. Akbala was no ordinary being. His eyes glowed like burning coal, and a crown of bones sat upon his head. When Adi and Marini pleaded with him for a child, he only laughed. "I can give you a child," he said, "but she will not belong to you alone. She will bring joy to your hearts, yet sorrow to many others. Do you accept?" Worn down by years of waiting and desperate for an answer, the couple said yes. Soon after, Marini conceived. The news spread like wildfire, and the entire village rejoiced. Women danced around her, declaring that God had finally blessed her womb. But none of them understood the kind of blessing that was coming. One night, the child was born. At that very moment, something strange happened. The village marketplace suddenly caught fire. Shops, baskets, and goods all went up in flames. No one had lit the fire. It rose as if by magic. People screamed, "This is a bad omen." At the same moment, Marini gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Atino. Adenok was strikingly beautiful. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled, and her laughter sounded sweet, but it carried a strange echo, as though two voices spoke at once. Her mother was overjoyed, but others shook their heads. "A child born with fire will one day bring fire," they warned. As Atino grew, animals refused to stay near her. Goats bleated endlessly whenever she passed by. Sometimes, the wind would halt suddenly as she stepped outside. People began to fear her, though her parents ignored the signs. One day, Atino insulted an elder. Her father, Adiwali, lost his temper and beat her. That night, he screamed in his sleep. By morning, his body was twisted, his bones shattered, and his tongue was gone. The villagers were horrified. They knew instantly that this was no ordinary child. The fire that consumed the marketplace on the night of her birth was only the beginning. Atino had come into the world with a power that was not from God. She was the child of Akbala, and darkness had entered the land. She grew quickly. By 7 years old, she was taller and stronger than many children her age. Her beauty drew admiration from afar, but her strange presence kept people at a distance. Marini, determined to give her daughter a normal life, forced her to attend school. But school only exposed more of her darkness. In class, Atino always sat alone. No one dared sit beside her. Anyone who tried would suddenly fall ill or feel a chilling coldness. Teachers noticed but dared not say a word. They all remembered Adewale's fate and feared being next. Only one boy, Depo, was different. Bold and mischievous, he had no fear of Atino. One day, while the teacher was away, Depo mocked her loudly. "You're a cursed child. You bring misfortune." The class laughed nervously. Atino only turned and gave Depo a slow, unsettling smile. She said nothing. That night, Depo awoke screaming. He could no longer hear his mother's voice, nor his father's call. He had gone deaf. Doctors were brought in, but they found nothing wrong with his ears. From that day forward, Depo never heard another sound. The villagers whispered that it was Atino's punishment. Fear spread like wildfire. Children avoided her at school, and even on the playground. If a ball rolled her way, no one dared retrieve it. Teachers marked her work without even looking at it, terrified of offending her. At home, Marini wrestled with the truth. She loved her daughter dearly, but she could no longer deny what she saw. Some nights, she would wake to find Atino sitting awake, smiling at the wall as though listening to a voice no one else could hear. When asked who she was speaking to, Atino would answer simply, "My father's friend." The villagers were restless. First Adewale's strange death, then Depo's curse. Who would be next? Some elders suggested driving Atino away, but others warned of provoking her anger. No one dared risk it. Still, her power grew stronger with each passing day. Fear spread across the village. People whispered about her. Children were forbidden to play near her, and adults avoided her gaze. But the suffering in the land was becoming unbearable. Something had to be done. One evening, A secret meeting was held in the home of the oldest elder. Men gathered in silence, their faces heavy with worry. "We cannot continue like this," the elder said. "Adi is gone. Depo is gone. If we do nothing, she will destroy us one by one." They decided the only solution was to kill Atino. The strongest hunters were chosen. They sharpened their arrows and coated them with deadly forest poison. "No child can survive this," one said. They planned to strike at night, while she slept. That night, the hunters surrounded Marini's hut. Quiet as shadows, they raised their arrows. Atino lay asleep on her mat, eyes closed. They took aim, ready to release. But before they could strike, the air grew heavy. A freezing wind swept through. Though the night was warm, their arrows twisted in the air, turning back upon them. Before they could react, the poison tips pierced their own chests. One by one, they fell lifeless, eyes wide with terror. Hearing the noise, Marini rushed outside. She screamed at the sight of the hunters lying dead around her home. Atino stepped out calmly, her eyes faintly glowing. "They thought they could touch me," she whispered. "But no one can touch me." By morning, the whole village knew what had happened. The hunters, the bravest among them, were gone. The message was clear: Atino was untouchable. From that day forward, no one dared to plot against her openly. Yet deep inside, they knew that as long as she lived among them, peace would never return. After the hunters' deaths, silence fell upon the village. People avoided her path, bowed their heads when she passed, and prayed she wouldn't notice them. But though no one dared move against her again, the land itself began to suffer. One morning, the sun refused to rise. Darkness covered the sky even in daylight. Children cried in their mothers' arms as men gathered in fear, asking, "What is happening to our world?" The elders shook their heads. "The heavens are angry, because of her." Days later, when the sun finally returned, the rains ceased. Rivers dried up, fields cracked, and crops withered. Hunger entered every home. Women returned with empty pots, and families grew thin and weak. Mothers buried starving children. The old groaned in despair. The villagers knew this was no ordinary misfortune. They remembered the fire that consumed the market the night she was born. They remembered Adewale's death, Depo's deafness, and the hunters slain by their own arrows. Now even the skies and rains had turned against them. Yet Atino walked about untouched. She never complained of hunger or thirst. While others wasted away, she grew stronger, often standing outside at night smiling up at the dark sky as though drawing power from it. The villagers feared her more than ever. Some brave men went to Marini and pleaded, "Please speak to your daughter. She is destroying us. If this continues, none of us will survive." Marini wept bitterly. She loved her child, but Akbala's warning echoed in her mind. "Your joy will bring suffering to many." The villagers held another meeting. "If this continues, our village will perish. We must seek help beyond ourselves," an elder declared. They agreed to consult Aja, the oracle, to learn how to end Adenok's power. But in their hearts, many wondered if it was already too late. For how could anyone fight a child who carried the shadow of both earth and heaven? And so, the suffering of the village grew worse with every passing day. When the sun shone, it burned too hot. When the rain was needed, the skies stayed dry. Hunger and despair spread across the land. The fields lay barren, the shrimp nets pulled up empty, and hunger swept through every home. Whispers spread that death itself was roaming door to door, claiming both the young and the old. At last, the elders agreed there was only one chance left. They must seek counsel from Ea, the oracle. On a cold dawn, the elders and a band of brave men carried palm oil, white cloth, and a goat for sacrifice. Their path led them into the sacred grove, where the oracle sat upon a wooden stool, surrounded by cowries and divining tools. His face was streaked with chalk, his eyes distant, as though he gazed into another world. He listened quietly to their pleas, nodding with solemn patience. Then he began to chant, casting the sacred kola upon the earth. His voice rose and fell like the wind while the villagers held their breath, hearts pounding. Finally, he fell silent and fixed them with sorrowful eyes. "The child you call Atino," he said, "is no ordinary child. She belongs to Opala, the devil. Her strength is not of this world. While she lives, the land will wither and suffer. A shiver passed through the villagers. Some covered their faces in dread. But the oracle was not finished. Yet even the strongest spirit has a weakness. Atino must never taste cola. The day she eats it, her bond with darkness will shatter, and her power will fade. The people gasped in disbelief that something so small could undo such terror. But how can we make her eat cola? One woman asked. Wouldn't she suspect us? She knows the heart of anyone who tries to deceive her. The oracle nodded. Yes. If one with evil intent attempts it, she will see. But there is one who can succeed, her own mother. The love of a mother can veil the plan from her eyes. All eyes turned toward Morin, who had quietly followed. Tears streaked her face. She adored Atino deeply, yet knew the girl's presence was bringing ruin upon them all. Her heart tore between love and duty. Can a mother take her own child's life? She whispered. The oracle laid a hand on her shoulder. If you do not, all will perish. Sometimes a mother's tears save many lives. His words pierced her like a blade. From that moment, Morin carried a crushing weight, knowing the fate of the entire village lay in her choice. That night, Morin lay awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling, unable to rest. Her eyes fixed on Atino, her only child, the answer to years of prayer and longing. Yet now, that same child had become the source of death and despair for all. The oracle's warning echoed. Only the mother can end it. By day, Morin watched her daughter laugh and play, looking innocent as ever. But wherever Atino walked, fear followed. Children fled from her shadow. Mothers pulled their little ones aside. Morin's chest ached with grief. She could no longer deny the truth. Atino was not an ordinary girl. One evening, Atino noticed her mother's sadness. Mama, why do you always cry? She asked softly. Am I not enough for you? Morin forced a smile, but inside her heart broke. How could she tell her child she was the cause of the land's suffering? The next morning, Morin went to the market and bought fresh yam and kola nut. For a long time she stared at the kola in her hand. Such a small thing. Yet it carried the power to save them all. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them in cloth, fearful even the trees might sense her secret. That night, she prepared the meal. She pounded the yam, sweat mixing with her tears, then ground the kola in secret and stirred it in. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared Atino would hear. Every sound in the kitchen startled her. Yet she pressed on, knowing it was the only way. When the food was ready, Morin called softly, My child, come. I made your favorite. Atino's face lit up. She sat down eagerly, laughing as she began to eat, unaware of the hidden danger. But after her first bite, the air grew heavy. The lamp flickered. Atino frowned, her smile fading. Slowly, she lifted her gaze to her mother, suspicion sharpening her eyes. Mama, she whispered. What have you done? Morin trembled, tears spilling as she watched her daughter swallow the very thing that would strip her power. She knew there was no turning back. Atino dropped a morsel of yam from her hand as her body shook violently, as though something within her fought to break free. Her eyes darkened, and her voice came out layered, like two beings speaking as one. Mama, you have betrayed me. The ground quaked at her words, the lamp extinguished, and half the room was swallowed in darkness. Morin collapsed, weeping. Forgive me, my child, she cried. I did this to save the people. You are my blood, but your power destroys us all. Atino's face twisted with fury. She staggered upright, clutching her stomach. Do you think food can end me? She screamed, her voice echoing through the village. Startled from their sleep, people rushed outside, staring toward Morin's home as the thunder of Atino's cries shook the air. Flames burst from her body, licking the walls. Her scream tore the night as her power cracked apart. Villagers watched from a distance, frozen in fear. Fire rose from Morin's hut, shadows twisting inside. Some fell to their knees in prayer, others shielded their children's eyes. Inside, Morin reached toward her daughter, sobbing. Atino, my child, I love you. Please forgive me. But Atino's voice roared like an earthquake. You gave me life, and now you take it away. With a final cry, her body erupted in flames, fire blazing brighter than the moon. For a heartbeat, it seemed the whole village would burn. Then, as suddenly as it came, the blaze collapsed inward and vanished, leaving only smoke and silence. Morin fell to the ground, shattered. The daughter she had prayed for, loved beyond all, was gone, consumed by the same fire that marked her curse. The village fell into an eerie stillness. No bird sang, no dog barked. Slowly the people gathered, finding Morin weeping among ashes. The hut was charred, and Atino was nowhere. Only drifting cinders remained. "It is over," an elder whispered. "The curse is broken." Relief spread among the villagers, though their joy was heavy with sorrow. Atino had brought them misery, yet she was still a child of their land. Some wept, some sighed, but all knew the suffering had ended. Days later, the sun blazed again. Rain returned, reviving the fields. Rivers swelled with fresh water, and crops began to grow. Laughter returned to the village, as if the earth itself had begun to breathe again. But Morin could not rejoice. Each time she saw children play, she remembered Atino's smile. At night, she woke in tears, reaching for a daughter who was no longer there. The people told her she had saved them, but her heart was only sorrow. "What is a mother without her child?" she whispered often. The villagers honored her sacrifice, rebuilding their lives and singing songs of freedom. But to Morin, it was no honor, only the deepest wound of her life. One evening, children playing near the river ran home in fright. They swore they had heard laughter in the water. Some even claimed they saw a shadow dancing upon the surface. Though dismissed as imagination, whispers spread. From that night, few dared approach the river after dark. Some believed Atino's spirit still wandered between earth and sky, waiting. They warned that fire might rise again if the people ever forgot the lesson of her story. And so, though Atino was gone, her name lived on in whispers. To some, she was a curse. To her mother, she was a lost child. To all, she remained proof that certain gifts carry unbearable cost.